the Ombudsman work? The Ombudsman's objective is to resolve problems while establishing cooperative ties with stakeholders by not penalizing any party. The Ombudsman aims at integrating the cooperation between related state agencies. How to lodge a complaint? Via telephone by dialing hotline number 1676, free and available nationwide. Via mobile application. Application The Ombudsman or ผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดิน can be downloaded and installed via App Store for iOS devices and Play Store for Android users. Via Internet, visit our official website worldwideweb.ombudsman.go.th to lodge your complaint online. By post, submit the complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman Thailand, 5th floor, รัฐประศาสนภักดี Building, the Government Complex commemorating His Majesty the King's 80th birthday anniversary, 5th December, BE 2550. Briefly, the Government Complex, Chaeng Watthana Road, Tung Song Hong Sub-District, Laxi District, Bangkok 10210. Or Post Office Box duties of the state of the Constitution of the Kingdom of Thailand, BE 2550, proposing to the Constitutional Court with any legal provision that begs the question of constitutionality, proposing to Administrative Court on rules, orders, and actions of state agencies or state officials that beg the question of constitutionality or legality. How does the Ombudsman work? The Ombudsman's objective is to resolve problems while establishing cooperative ties with stakeholders by not penalizing any party. The Ombudsman aims at integrating the cooperation between related state agencies. How to lodge a complaint? Via telephone by dialing hotline number 1676, free and available nationwide. Via mobile application. Application The Ombudsman or ผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดิน can be downloaded and installed via App Store for iOS devices and Play Store for Android users. Via Internet, visit our official website worldwideweb.ombudsman.go.th to lodge your complaint online. By post, submit the complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman Thailand, 5th floor, รัฐประศาสนภักดี Building, the Government Complex commemorating His Majesty the King's 80th birthday anniversary, 5th December, BE 2550, briefly the Government Complex, Chaeng Watthana Road, Tung Song Hong Sub-District, Laxi District, Bangkok, 10210. Or Post Office Box 333, the Government Complex, Bangkok, 10215. In person, you can lodge a complaint in person at the Office of the Ombudsman Thailand, the Government Complex, รัฐประศาสนภักดี Building, 5th floor, Chaeng Watthana Road, Tung Song Hong Sub-District, Laxi District, Bangkok. Examples of settled cases. Submitting a case to the Constitutional Court, the Ombudsman considered that provision of the Revenue Code that have brought about the husband and wife's higher tax burden by a progressive tax rate were contrary to the equality provision of the Constitution. The provisions were, therefore, unenforceable. The amendment is needed to permit the right of each spouse to file his or her own tax return separately. The Ombudsman addressed an issue in which the elderly were required to return the old age allowance they had received in duplicate with special pension and assured that the elderly is entitled to receive both special pension and allowance simultaneously as they are from different sources of income. The Ombudsman recommended the Royal Thai Police to revise its regulation on fingerprinting as it requires the information of the suspect or defendants who are in the middle of legal proceedings and the information of defendants the court found guilty to be recorded in the same database. Therefore, the Royal Thai Police was recommended to keep suspect record database and criminal record database separately, and to set up specific time frame for the completion of reporting of final case results from each police station to the Criminal Records Division of the Royal Thai Police. The Vocational Skill Enhancement Project for students who cannot pursue further studies after compulsory education was initiated by the Ombudsman according to the Ombudsman's mandate to inspect the compliance of the state agencies with Section 54 of Chapter 5, Duty of the State of the Constitution, to protect and ensure that every child receives quality educations to become a decent citizen. They will be able to enter the labor market as skilled labor with better income and quality of life. The Ombudsman resolved the problem of road steep slopes and sharp curves causing frequent car accidents in Phuket, and made recommendation to the Phuket Highway District to impose short and long-term measures to reduce the risk of accidents and injuries, and regularly report them to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman systematically tackled the issue of the accident of oil depot fire in Omyai Sub-District, Nakhon Pathom Province, by playing a role of intermediary to coordinate with the pertinent agencies to draw up standardized scheme and preventive measures, as well as systematic practical guidelines to avoid recurring incidents.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is our great pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests to the afternoon sections of the seminar commemorating the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Ombudsman of Thailand, titled Fostering Fairness in Society, the Ombudsman's Role in Achieving SDG16. And my name is Sawika Kanchanamath. It's my great pleasure to be here as your MC for the today event. Previously, we have presented the video highlighting the key roles and significant achievements of the Ombudsman of Thailand. This presentation served as a reflection of the commitment and dedication that the Office of the Ombudsman has upheld throughout its 25 years history. And for this afternoon sections, I'm honored to invite Mr. Somsak Suvarnasucharit, Chief Ombudsman of Thailand, to deliver the opening remarks for the seminar on the topic, Fostering Fairness in Society, the Ombudsman's Role in Achieving SDG16. And Mr. Somsak, now the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As the Chief Ombudsman of Thailand, it is both an honor and pleasure to welcome you to the international seminar on the occasion of the commemorating the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Ombudsman of Thailand under the topic Fostering Fairness in Society, the Ombudsman's role in achieving SDG 16, and for better understanding, please allow me to speak through the interpreter. ในฐานะประธานผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินแห่งราชอาณาจักรไทยผมรู้สึกเป็นเกียรติและมีความยินดีเป็นอย่างยิ่งที่ได้มีโอกาสต้อนรับท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านจากหน่วยงานต่างๆเข้าสู่การสัมมนาเนื่องในโอกาสครบรอบ25 ปีแห่งการสถาปนาสำนักงานผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในหัวข้อFostering Fairness in Society, the Ombudsman's Role in Achieving SDG 16. การพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนหรือ Sustainable Development คือแนวทางการพัฒนาที่ตอบสนองความต้องการของคนรุ่นปัจจุบันโดยไม่ริดรอนความสามารถในการตอบสนองหรือความต้องการของคนรุ่นหลังโดยการบรรลุการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนมีองค์ประกอบที่สำคัญ3 ประการได้แก่ การเติบโตทางเศรษฐกิจความครอบคลุมทางสังคมและการคุ้มครองสิ่งแวดล้อมในการประชุมสมัชชาสหประชาชาติสมัยสามัญครั้งที่ 70 เมื่อวันที่ 25 กันยายน 2558 ณ สำนักงานใหญ่สหประชาชาติประเทศไทยและประเทศสมาชิกสหประชาชาติรวม 193 ประเทศได้ร่วมลงนามรับรองวาระการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืน ค.ศ. 2030 ซึ่งเป็นกรอบการพัฒนาของโลกเพื่อร่วมกันบรรลุการพัฒนาทางสังคมเศรษฐกิจและสิ่งแวดล้อมอย่างยั่งยืนโดยไม่ทิ้งใครไว้ข้างหลังภายในปี ค.ศ. 2030 โดยกำหนดให้มีเป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนเป็นแนวทางให้แต่ละประเทศดำเนินการร่วมกันในส่วนของผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในฐานะองค์กรอิสระของไทยนับว่ามีบทบาทสำคัญในการส่งเสริมและสนับสนุนเป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนหรือ SDG โดยเฉพาะเป้าหมายที่ 16 ที่มุ่งส่งเสริมสังคมที่สงบสุขและครอบคลุมเพิ่มการเข้าถึงความยุติธรรมสำหรับทุกคนและสร้างสถาบันที่มีประสิทธิภาพโปร่งใสตรวจสอบได้และครอบคลุมในทุกระดับนอกจากนี้บทบาทและหน้าที่ของผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในการรับเรื่องร้องเรียนของประชาชนและตรวจสอบการปฏิบัติหน้าที่ของหน่วยงานของรัฐให้เป็นไปตามหลักธรรมาภิบาลมีความเชื่อมโยงกับเป้าหมายที่ 16 ในหลายมิติเช่นการช่วยให้ประชาชนเข้าถึงความยุติธรรมและปกป้องสิทธิที่ถูกละเมิดในเป้าหมายที่ 16.3 และการส่งเสริมความโปร่งใสและความรับผิดชอบของหน่วยงานรัฐในเป้าหมายที่ 16.6 ยิ่งไปกว่านั้นผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินยังสนับสนุนการมีส่วนร่วมของประชาชนในกระบวนการตรวจสอบและเสนอแนะนโยบายในเป้าหมายที่ 16.7 รวมถึงการพัฒนาสถาบันของรัฐให้มีความเข้มแข็งและยึดหลักนิติธรรมในเป้าหมายที่ 16.A ด้วยบทบาทดังกล่าวผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินจึงเป็นกลไกสำคัญในการสร้างความยุติธรรมและการพัฒนาสังคมอย่างยั่งยืนตามเป้าหมาย SDG ที่ 16 ท่านผู้มีเกียรติสุภาพบุรุษและสุภาพสตรีทุกท่านครับการสัมมนาในหัวข้อบทบาทของผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในการส่งเสริมความเป็นธรรมในสังคมสู่เป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนเป้าหมายที่ 16 เนื่องในโอกาสครบรอบ 25 ปีของการสถาปนาสำนักงานผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในวันนี้จึงนับเป็นเวทีแลกเปลี่ยนประสบการณ์และแนวปฏิบัติที่ดีระหว่างผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินกับภาคีเครือข่ายหรือองค์กรภาคส่วนที่เกี่ยวข้องอีกทั้งยังเป็นโอกาสในการเผยแพร่บทบาทและผลการดำเนินงานของผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในรอบ 25 ปีที่ผ่านมาและเป็นเวทีรับฟังความคิดเห็นและข้อเสนอแนะของผู้เข้าร่วมสัมมนาทั้งที่อยู่ในห้องสัมมนาและที่รับชมผ่านช่องทางออนไลน์ทั้งในและต่างประเทศในการที่จะได้หารือแลกเปลี่ยนมุมมองและแบ่งปันประสบการณ์ภายใต้กรอบแนวความคิดของการส่งเสริมความเป็นธรรมที่เกิดขึ้นตามบริบทของแต่ละสังคมซึ่งกระผมมีความหวังเป็นอย่างยิ่งว่าผู้เข้าร่วมรับฟังการสัมมนาในครั้งนี้จะได้รับความรู้และมุมมองใหม่ๆในการนำกลับไปปรับใช้กับหน่วยงานของตนเอง เพื่อเป็นการยกระดับความเป็นธรรมอย่างยั่งยืนและเข้มแข็งสืบไปทั้งในปัจจุบันและอนาคตในโอกาสนี้ต้องขอบพระคุณท่านวิทยากรผู้เข้าร่วมสัมมนาและแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านตลอดจนผู้บริหารและเจ้าหน้าที่ของสำนักงานผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินที่ได้ร่วมในการจัดงานและขอให้การสัมมนาในหัวข้อบทบาทของผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินในการส่งเสริมความเป็นธรรมในสังคมสู่เป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนเป้าหมายที่ 16เนื่องในโอกาสครบรอบ 25 ปีของการสถาปนาสำนักงานผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดินบรรลุวัตถุประสงค์อย่างราบรื่นตามที่ตั้งไว้ทุกประการขอบคุณครับ
Thank you very much, Mr. Somsak Suwannasujarit, Chief Ombudsman of Thailand, for your opening remarks. And next, I'm pleased to commence the seminar section. We are honored to have with us today Mr. Songpon Sukjan, former ambassador of Thailand to Indonesia, as our moderator. Please allow me to briefly introduce our moderator. Mr. Songpon Sukjan holds a bachelor degrees in international affairs and pursue master degrees in international affairs and diplomacy from the Faculty of Political Science, Thammasat University, including a master's degree in international relations from the International University of Japan. His distinguished diplomatic career includes Director of the Bureau of Personnel Administration at the Office of the Permanent Secretary, Consul General at the Royal Thai Consulate General in Chicago, Director General of the Department of European Affairs, and served as Ambassador of Thailand to Indonesia from 2018 until his retirement in 2021. As for our esteemed panelists, it is unfortunate that Professor Bitit Mandaporn, the Professor Emeritus of Law at Chulalongkorn University and UN Special Rapporteur, is unable to join us in person. However, he has kindly pre-recorded a video presentations for today's seminar. And moreover, we are honored to have Mr. Bobby Hamzah Rafinas, Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia, who is joining us virtually via Zoom. And good afternoon, Mr. Rafinas. And without further ado, may I now invite our panelists on the stage. First, I would like to invite Ms. Nith Collier-Smith, the UNDP resident representative in Thailand, on the stage. Please give her a big round of applause. Next, I would like to invite the Professor Sulichai Vangao, the Professor Emeritus of Sociology, Chulalongkorn University, and Mr. Somsak Saishia, Ombudsman of Thailand. And Mr. Songpon Sukjan, former ambassador of Thailand to Indonesia, and today he will be our moderator for this section. We hand the sessions over to Mr. Songpon, our moderator for this section. Thank you very much, and Mr. Songpon, please welcome.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, participants, speakers, ladies and gentlemen who are here in this room and also who are watching from online. On behalf of the Ombudsman Thailand, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the seminar entitled Fostering Fairness in Society, the Role of Ombudsman in Achieving SDG16. This seminar is the last event of its series organized by the Ombudsman Thailand to celebrate 25 years of anniversary of its establishment. Pathway to Fairness for All is the theme of our celebration. The celebration events can take stock of what Ombudsman Thailand has done to promote fairness in society for the past 25 years and what they plan to do next in years ahead. The first seminar yesterday discussed on what is the next step for Ombudsman Thailand to redress grievance and unfairness of people more efficiently. This morning, another seminar addressed issues of how Ombudsman Thailand can strengthen good governance to resolve people grievance, which could lead to their sustainable development. Talking about sustainable development, we must realize that we have less than 5 years to achieve SDG 2030, while carrying out SDG now is under another most difficult time after COVID, when the world is facing with turbulences from political crisis, trade war, tech war, climate change, and AI. Today's seminar, Fostering Fairness in Society, the Role of Ombudsman in Achieving SDG 16, is timely and vital, as SDG 16 calls for peace, justice, and strong institutions. And at the heart of these aspirations lie the principle of fairness, and the Ombudsman play independent, crucial role in upholding that principle through promoting good governance, protecting people's rights, and oversighting the exercise of state power. Ladies and gentlemen, the seminar, therefore, we focus on 3 objectives. First, to highlight the Ombudsman role in promoting good governance and facilitating the achievement of SDG 16. Second, to exchange best practice among Ombudsman officers and other stakeholders in achieving fairness. The last focus will be to strengthen collaboration among national and international organizations to promote effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome a distinguished panel of speakers from academic UNDP, Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia, and the Ombudsman of Thailand, who will share with us their experience and perspective. This seminar is conducted with on-site and online panelists, including video clips. Allow me to briefly introduce our speaker today. The first speaker, Professor Vitit Mantaporn, a Professor Emeritus at Faculty of Law, Chulalongkorn University, who cannot be here today, but he also sent us the video clip to show us, how he sees the topics today. He is a former UN Special Rapporteur on various fields and countries, and a former member of the UN appointed commissions of inquiry on the Ivory Coast and Syrian Arab Republic. The second speaker, Ms. Neve Collier-Smith. She is the resident representative, UNDP resident representative in Thailand. She's been with the UNDP for almost 20 years. She has great experience in working with World Bank and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Before coming to Bangkok, she worked at the UNDP office in New York, focusing on strategy and organization performance. The third speaker is Mr. Bobby Hamza Rafinus. He's the Vice Chairman of the Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia. He was a senior advisor on regional diplomatic policy at the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs. He specialized in economic affairs and held various roles within the Ministry of Economic Affairs. The first speaker will be Professor Surichai Wankao, a Professor Emeritus of Sociology, Chulalongkorn University. He's been active in civil society for decades and has served on several national and international platforms focusing on peace, development, and human rights. Currently, he chairs the Labor Right Promotion Network Foundation, the Ecological Alert and Recovery Thailand Foundation, and also the Focus on Global South Foundation. Last speaker, but not least, Mr. Songsak Sai Chea, Ombudsman Thailand. He is a former ambassador to Austria, Slovakia, and Slovenia. He served as permanent representative to the United Nations in Vienna and also as chair of the Asia Pacific Group and vice president of the UNIDO Program and Budget Committee during that time. Please give Ben a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we begin, just a few housekeeping work. The seminar will have two rounds. First round, we will give each speaker 20 minutes for presentation. And the second round will be a follow-up 5 minutes for each speaker. And after both rounds, there will be a Q&A session, both on site here and online, by verbal or even in writing. To start off with our first panelist, Professor Vitit Mandaporn. As I mentioned, he cannot be here and kindly send us a video clip. We asked him about the interlinkage between the world situation now and the SDG, and where is the Ombudsman in that linkage. And now, please listen to the video clip of Professor Vitit Mandaporn.
Sawadee krab. Hello everyone. I'm Vitit Mandaporn from Chulalongkorn University. A very warm welcome to this wonderful, distinguished gathering. And congratulations to the Ombudsman of Thailand and the Ombudsman's Office for this wonderful event together at this point in time. I'm so pleased to be joining you, but sadly not in person, so it's through this video. And I wish you a wonderful event. The topic at hand is really to interlink between the current state of world affairs, sustainable development, and the Ombudsman Framework Office and Coalition worldwide. So what is the state of the art, state of affairs? Well, unfortunately, the world is facing many crises today. Global warming, warfare not far from here, underdevelopment in many countries still, hampered by increasing tariffs on some front, changes in terms of leadership, which are less multilateral and more personal and transactional, as well as a whole gamut of challenges worldwide. And yet, perhaps the way we should look at these issues is to see a little light as an opportunity for changes, transformative changes as well, even amidst what we call today in terms of polycrisis. Let's look at some opportunities, particularly through the eyes of development and the role, the possibilities of Ombudsman. 3 entry points. 1, context. 2, content. And 3, contours in terms of the relationship between these institutions worldwide and the development process. Well, in terms of context, development today and since quite a few years now has been shaped by multilateral framework. Currently, 2015 to 2030, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, which are very much at the heart of the discussion today. 17 goals, starting off with goal 1, which is tackle poverty, reduce poverty in terms of rate to 0 by 2030. Onwards towards goal 16, which interrelates very much with Ombudsman in terms of rights, freedoms, justice, rule of law, institutions that render a sense of equity and equality. And then finally, the goal 17, which is about cooperation. In terms of the context, Ombudsman institution emerged, particularly in Europe, and even before then in terms of the origins of whatever institution that existed in the past, to render justice. And particularly Ombudsman emerged in Northern Europe and then spread to now over 100 countries, particularly to monitor state institutions and related institutions in terms of what they do, in terms of maybe the troubles that they cause to the civilians, the people at large, and or whether there are matters of injustice and how the Ombudsman can expose these injustices with a view to rectification. The pattern of different ombudsmen worldwide is that they have different powers, but they do their best to monitor and advocate for justice. Some ombudsman institutions are very specific, like police ombudsman in some countries. Some have very high powers in terms of powerful leveraging in terms of covering also the judiciary and even being able to impose certain fines and sanctions. Whereas others are more general, they are more advisory rather than slightly more judgmental and remedial in terms of actual compensation or changes in terms of the injustices caused. And today, in terms of the 100+ institutions that we have worldwide, the ombudsmen have a certain coalition of over 100 ombudsmen worldwide. And they have criteria which tries to measure or try to build their credibility in terms of independence. We have the Venice criteria, the Venice guidance, which advocates independence for ombudsman. Independence from what? At least independence from the executive power, because ombudsmen are very useful to monitor executive power, as well as to report back to Parliament, and even more, I mean, in some situations, they monitor the judiciary also, as well as parliamentary action, as well as maybe state enterprises. So that's the gamut of possibilities in terms of ombudsman worldwide, and it's not just one model, so to speak, but a variety, but ultimately to try to render justice with a view to overcoming maladministration institutions. So they sit there, ombudsman, together with human rights commissions, if they fulfill the criteria of national human rights institutions, which fall under the criteria of the set of principles known as the Paris Principles in terms of independence, pluralism, and effectiveness. But some ombudsmen don't fall under that framework and are less attached to the global framework of human rights, whereas they deal more with general justice issues according to national law rather than international law. So that's the range in terms of the context, and it's a context that has to be placed in this very challenging world of polycrisis, but also with opportunities for the future. Secondly, let's have a look at the content of the relationship between development and the Thai Ombudsman as an institution with a secretariat. And of course, it's a pleasure to be able to help look at their work today analytically with a view to the future. Well, the Ombudsman's office in Thailand was set up with the 16th National Constitution of Thailand, which was and still is regarded as the most democratic. So we set up with about 4 or 5 other institutions as independent institutions, including the National Human Rights Commission and a few others. And so the aspiration then and there was to enable it to act independently. To do what? Well, according to the law of Ombudsman in Thailand, the original law as amended throughout the years, The aim was to look at situations where the population are inconvenienced or troubled by various activities of the state, particularly state institutions, as well as to tackle justice and injustice issues. And that's where we are in terms of the mandate, a general mandate, which is a very important general mandate of the Ombudsman today. And there are 3 ombudsmen, as well as an active secretariat. Secondly, the Thai Ombudsman institution does not have the power to cover the judiciary. That's according to the law. But it has the power to cover other state institutions. Well, of course, the executive, ministries, and then report back to Parliament, and then maybe as linked also with some activities of state enterprises. So that's the mandate today, but still there are ways of interlinking with the judiciary, as I will say in a moment. Thirdly, the Ombudsman in Thailand is differentiated from the National Human Rights Institution, which is the National Human Rights Commission. The Ombudsman does not have power explicitly to tackle human rights as understood internationally and according to the law of the National Human Rights Commission. Whereas the Ombudsman in Thailand tackles basically situations where people are troubled, inconvenienced, and because of state institutions, as well as general injustice issues. Next, the Ombudsman, the power as evolved today is also important in terms of being able to take the initiative. The Latin word is sio motu, to take initiative to raise issues. And interestingly, today in the press, there was one column which said that the Ombudsman has now raised the issue of proxy nominees in Thailand in terms of the damage that might be doing. And most recently, as witnessed by maybe the linkage with the collapse of the building during the earthquake. So that's important in terms of having its own initiative to be able to raise issues. And then finally, as a content, which is very important in terms of its power, very importantly, the Ombudsman has the power to refer cases to the Constitutional Court as well as the Administrative Court. This is very important because other institutions such as the National Human Rights Commission, currently, National Human Rights Commission of Thailand does not have the power to raise issues directly before the Constitutional Court of Thailand, whereas the Ombudsman does have the power. So that is the content of what the Ombudsman is able to do today. And let's look at some examples of where it's been very catalytic in terms of rendering justice or pushing for justice together with access to the Constitutional Court, most evidently. Well, 2 of my favorites are the following. They're about gender, actually. They're about women also and gender in general, because this is also very much in the news today in terms of gender news globally and what is defined as woman or womanhood. From the perspective of Thailand, one of the early cases raised by the Ombudsman was on names, whether women who married could retain their maiden names rather than having to adopt the name of the husband. And this was raised as an issue years ago by the Ombudsman and taken up to the Constitutional Court of Thailand. And happily, the women's lobby won in terms of being able to choose to use the maiden name and not to be bound by the name of the husband as a measure of women's rights and equality. So that was really good news. And today you have women who are married who still retain their former name of the old family rather than having to adopt the name of the husband. More recently, another issue to do with women. Just the year past, actually, this case was raised by the Ombudsman again before the Constitutional Court of Thailand. What happened then was that according to the old law, the Civil Code of Thailand, particularly Article, I think it was 1523, the old law said that anybody who sort of meddled or had an affair with someone in the family might be sued by the spouse. This was the law in terms of the Civil Code then. But the actual article differentiated between woman and man or husband and wife and discriminated against the wife, favoring the husband for this reason. The clause concerned in that article said that the husband could sue anyone who had or attempted to have a sexual relationship with the wife. Anyone, meaning any gender, actually. It could be a man or a woman or whatever in terms of having a relationship with wife. So it was very broad coverage of justice for the man who's the husband. But for the wife, the law at that point in time said that the wife could sue someone having an affair with the husband, but she had to prove something more than the husband's own right to sue. She had to prove, one, that it was an affair with a woman, and two, that it was an affair with a woman who the husband regarded publicly almost as a wife, as an open relationship. So two criteria which were very discriminatory against the wife. Now, the Ombudsman pushed this up to the Constitutional Court just last year, and rightly, women's rights won, because the Constitutional Court said that this article in the Civil Code was discriminatory against women's rights, and also under the current law of Thailand, which is the 20th Constitution with an Article 27, which advocates, or Section 27, which advocates non-discrimination. So there you are, two classic cases. One very classically old, and the other one classically modern in terms of rendering justice, in terms of equality on behalf of women in Thailand, and covering also non-Thai women in Thailand, because the law is open to cover all women in this territory. Well, those are two positive examples. And then what's the more challenging side of the current state of affairs in terms of rights and freedoms in Thailand, which the Ombudsman might like to cover more? This is challenging. Well, globally, if you look at the assessment of Thailand, we have glowing reviews of what we do in terms of healthcare, HIV, and even COVID we did very well, education as well, and women's rights now, as you've heard. So in terms of social, economic, cultural rights, we do quite well. And we had a UN mission visiting here just recently on health, and the person lauded Thailand for the universal healthcare in Thailand, and particularly community volunteers who help with healthcare. And we hope we can build on this, particularly to help others in terms of refugees and those who've had to take refuge in this country in terms of healthcare and more. But on civil and political rights, we don't do so well in terms of rights and freedoms. And the reason is that in terms of development, in terms of human rights, we also have to understand the burgeoning or not of democracy in this land and other lands. And our country, Thailand, has been sadly plagued by non-transparent actions on many fronts, including coup d'etat. And even the current constitution, the 20th constitution, is the result of the coup d'etat. Whereas the 16th constitution, which established the Ombudsman's office, was the most democratic constitution at the time. So now we're having to deal with the remnants of the coup, even though today we welcome the fact that the current government is an elected government. But there are many vestiges of the coup, as well as a top-down process, which is not very open-minded. And so you have many situations where rather closed and even draconian laws and regulations impede the enjoyment of civil and political rights in Thailand. The most critiqued internationally is the emergency decree, which is overused and still applies in southern Thailand. Under the emergency decree of Thailand, you can confine people, lock people up, beyond the usual prison system. It says so in Article 12 or Section 12 of the decree. And this was critiqued by the UN Committee on Torture recently. So the emergency decree, together with martial law, have to be revisited in terms of review. Another example, which is very sensitive, but it has to be dealt with constructively, is application of various criminal law provisions to those who disagree with the authorities or to children. And this is one that's very problematic. Over the past 2-3 years, we've had about nearly 300 cases of children being detained, arrested, or prosecuted for expressing themselves differently from the norm of some of those who administer the law of the land. In other words, children being prosecuted under various key provisions of the criminal code when the children should not have been prosecuted under the criminal code or the emergency law decree. And then even today, there are people in prison who express themselves who shouldn't be there at all. Express themselves peacefully, even though they might disagree with certain institutions of the land, as well as the sad, cloistered approach that interrelates with a rather close approach to security, which is overly in favor of not a very open state on some fronts. So that's the catch, really. And I think maybe that's the crunch also for where the Ombudsman institution should try to do a bit more in terms of opening up the civil political rights field and then enabling changes in terms of a more liberal approach towards political rights such as expression, assembly, and association. And particularly bear in mind that certain vulnerable groups like children should not bear the brunt of a closed or cloistered approach towards civil and political rights. Lastly, let's come to the future. Some contours for the future. Well, I have some catchy words for you, and let's test them with possibilities for the future. Number one, visibility. Visibility, very important. Very happily, today, ombudsmen were in the news in terms of their raising the issue of proxy nominees, which may affect contracts, procurement, and lately also damage done through lack of transparency, as was shown through the damage through the earthquake recently. And with the issue of visibility, I think it's very important to enable Ombudsman's office to reach out to the totality of Thailand, particularly in troubled areas. And of course, southern Thailand is still a troubled area, even though we very much like to have peace down there. So visibility in terms of how the Ombudsman reaches out. And you can have, and you do have staff who can reach out to the provinces and so on. So it's not just a Bangkok affair at all in terms of justice or people who are troubled by various actions on behalf of the state or administration. Number two, accessibility. Ombudsman, very important role in terms of accessing closed institutions. Together with national human rights institutions, I think you should really have a plan to visit all closed institutions, not just prisons, but where people are kept under, where those with a certain mental impairment might be kept, to monitor and to show that you work towards transparency, even though the Ombudsman in Thailand does not have the power of sanction. But you do have the power to monitor and to propose, very importantly. So accessibility there is very important in terms of your or our value added to expose and advise and monitor. Thirdly, I call it specificity. At a certain point in time, when the three ombudsmen were being talked about, there was also talk about maybe an ombudsman specifically on children. But even though today it's three general ombudsmen, but dealing with a whole gamut of issues, I think that there can be more focus in terms of various vulnerable groups. As I said, I mean, we've had 300 cases concerning children as affected by criminal laws over the past 3-4 years. I think really I would like more specific approach of ombudsmen in terms of dealing with certain vulnerable groups to enable transparency and option in terms of the preferred justice for vulnerable groups affected by certain remnants of the past, as well as a rather closed door on some fronts in terms of laws which are not so open-minded. Fourthly, I think the issue of accountability is very important on remedies. You know, the important case in southern Thailand where tens of people who were killed, who died because of lack of oxygen, because they were crammed into trucks belonging to the uniformed authorities. And then no one was responsible in the end. And there was expiry of prescription period, limitation period. So tens of people harmed, but no remedy. And what usually happens in Thailand is that if officials are complained against, they're just moved, or there's a bit of compensation, but no real remedy in terms of accountability. Very importantly, the United Nations Committee on Torture advised at the end of last year that there should be no prescription period for torture and enforced disappearances. I think that is an issue that the Ombudsman can raise together with the National Human Rights Commission very much of needed law reform, having a look at some of the recommendations from the UN which can pertain to both the National Human Rights institutions as well as the Ombudsman working together. And then finally, I think I would use the word referability. Referability. What do I mean? Where do you refer the cases if there's no justice? Of course, we have the glowing cases of the women's rights that I just mentioned, but what about the cases where there's no justice rendered by the courts, or there's no justice rendered by the other institutions? And I'm afraid that in terms of power, some so-called independent institutions are not looked upon that credibly in some situations either. So where do you go for remedies, ultimately, in terms of cross-referral? Because currently, the Ombudsman doesn't have the power to sanction. It has the power of review, monitor, and advise on its initiative, as well as to cross-link with the courts. But if there's a failure of remedies at the national level, what to do? I think that's a really nice challenge for the future. And I think in terms of referability, there are mechanisms of the UN that can receive complaints also from the Ombudsman. And you have your coalition of Ombudsmen worldwide under the so-called Venice Principles guidance for independence and credibility of Ombudsmen worldwide. So those are the contours for the future. And last but not least, the Ombudsman's task, as well as other bodies of the land, we are means to an end, we're not ends in themselves. Ombudsman, National Human Rights Commission, the courts are means to an end. The end must be justice rendered on the basis of rights and freedoms, hopefully with some universal standards called human rights, even though human rights is under the remit directly in Thailand of the National Human Rights Commission. But still, you can be inspired by these norms in terms of standards of what should be preferred as actions for the future. We are means to an end, we're not ends in ourselves as institutions. And in that endeavor, it is very important that we must also act as credible, independent, transparent checks and balances on power. Because that is the name of the game. It's not just rights and freedoms, it's how to deal with power. Balance, checks and balances to prevent abuse of power and to enable good power to enable transformative change. And in that, with that projection, let's offer hope, even where there is a polycrisis worldwide. The hope is to do our best, preferred options to our best ability with a view to the future, to enable the people of the land and beyond to enjoy human rights, rights and freedoms, peace, democracy, together. Together. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Vichit, for your thoughtful information, very thought-provoking views on the roles of ombudsmen amidst the world situation and also the domestic situation. Interestingly, about his suggestion on the future roles of ombudsmen in terms of the civil and political right for certain group of people, certain specific detention for certain people. I think it's give us the food for thought for the future roles of the ombudsman. And he also believes that the ombudsman can be a trajectory towards a preferred future. That's very interesting. Now let's hear from our second speakers, Ms. Div Collier-Smith, UNDP. Ms. Collier-Smith, I read somewhere that only 17% of the SDG have been achieved. And could you tell us the overall picture of the SDG and how Thailand and ASEAN are doing on their part? And if you have time, I mean, the roles of the Ombudsman in achieving the SDG. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you so much to the Office of the Ombudsman for the invitation to UNDP to join you here today. Having listened to the professor, I feel as a woman who maintained her maiden name when she got married, I should also say thank you to the Office of the Ombudsman for the good work that you have done in the name of women over the past years. Indeed, the statistic that you start with, Ambassador, is a sobering one. The percentage of the Sustainable Development Goals that have been achieved worldwide can be depressing and sobering when we think of the hope and ambition that we have packed into achieving those 17 goals. But I'd like us to think of it maybe, including from the perspective of SDG16, which I'll move to in a second, as a marathon and not a sprint. And in every marathon, you have the elite runners. You have the runners who cross the line before the rest of us had tied our shoelaces. It doesn't take away from the importance and the sense of pride and accomplishment it takes to run a marathon. And so every country will, I hope, I believe, at some point cross the line of achieving the SDGs if we stay the course. And that's the real challenge that we face. How do you maintain the momentum, the optimism, the encouragement, the incentives, and the financing to stay the course when you see the deadline coming at you so quickly in the future? So, I mean, one of the challenges we have right now is, is that deadline actually part of the challenge? It keeps us moving, but is it the end point? I don't think so. I think we have to see this like a marathon. Now, when we look at SDG 16, which is very central to the conversation today, for me, this SDG embodies a very simple and yet quite powerful idea that you cannot have sustainable development without inclusive and transparent and accountable governance. Now, SDG 16 itself, many of us, even in the design of the SDGs, remarked that we never thought we would be able to get an SDG in there on governance and peace. It was very contentious at the time of developing the global goals. And there's so many elements packed in there. Everything from anti-corruption on the one hand and transparent and accountable public institutions, all the way to sustaining peace on the other hand. So it's a hugely ambitious goal, as each of the 17 are. And what we can see, even beyond those statistics of how many indicators have been achieved, we can see very clearly what happens in the world, whether we're talking about Sudan or Ukraine or Gaza or closer to home in Myanmar. We can see what happens when SDG 16 falls apart. And the impact of the absence of progress on SDG 16 is visible in the loss of lives and livelihoods and in the loss of GDP. Let's, again, just look very close to home next door. Myanmar, since 2020, has dropped 9% in GDP as a result of the ongoing conflict, and it holds an inflation rate of about 24% at the moment. Now, it's a little sad that I am making economic arguments on the importance of peace, but I think we've increasingly found in the UN that we're pushed towards making economic arguments to try and increase the pace, the acceleration, and the commitment to drive towards these goals. And I mean, that's just one example. we can see that there is regression when we look at SDG16. If you take the World Justice Project report, most recently it said that 6 billion people live in a world where the rule of law got weaker between 2022 and 2023. Now, UNDP research as well, we have what's called a human security report, and it set out research to say that 6 out of every 7 people in the world are currently feeling insecure. And I don't just mean people living in war zones, I mean across the gamut of all countries at all levels of human development. So even in those countries with high levels of human development, people are feeling increasingly insecure. So the question is, what is driving that? And how, in the face of that, do we continue to make progress against these Sustainable Development Goals? Now, we can see that there are gaps. There's uneven progress, whether it's in ASEAN, to your question, Ambassador. We've seen some notable gains when we look at legal reforms. We've also seen shrinking of civic space in different countries across ASEAN, but we have also seen a growing recognition on the importance of getting better and of doing it together. So mechanisms like the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights is extremely important. When we look closer to home, here to Thailand, I've only been here for a number of months, but I have to say I am impressed with the commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals demonstrated by the kind of conversation here today. We can see that the Ministry of Justice, the independent bodies, have put the rule of law right at the center of policy and planning for the next 4 years. Now, right now, Thailand ranks 78th out of 142 countries on the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index for 2024. So as always, as in all countries, there's room for improvement. Thailand also is amongst those countries that's most improving on that index. And I think that's important to come back to. The professor spoke about hope. Hope is extremely important, and you have to take the progress where you see it and build on that. And we see other areas of progress. The adoption of the Prevention of Suppression of Torture and Enforced Disappearance Act, the Equal Marriage Act. These are, again, great examples, along with the commitment to OECD accession, which comes with its own rules and regulations, the UN Human Rights Commission election. These are examples of how Thailand is putting its foot forward and committing to advancing work on SDG16, on the rule of law, and the justice, indeed, that is the objective, as the professor said, that's written within that. So, in short, governance matters, conversations like this matter. They are the glue within SDG16, and SDG16 for me is the glue within the Sustainable Development Goals writ large. It's the part of the social contract that can either build up or break down that intangible currency of trust, which we all trade in every day. Which brings me then to the office of the Ombudsman. So the independent offices, like yours here today, they are also that glue or bridges. I don't want to run out of analogies, but you're the connecting dots between the people and the state. And this is built into the SDGs. Now, whether we're looking at targets 16.3 specifically on access to justice, 16.6 on transparent and accountable institutions, 16.7 on the importance of public participation in policy making and decision making, design and implementation, I should say. And this function of the Office of the Ombudspersons was strengthened only in December 2024 with the General Assembly resolution that strongly reinforced this role. It encouraged these offices and other mediator institutions to operate in accordance with the Paris and the Venice principles. Again, the professor spoke to them earlier. Encouraged these offices to enhance their independence, their autonomy, and their capacity to promote good governance and the rule of law. And very importantly, and maybe this is where I would build on the professor's references of visibility, accessibility, specificity, referability, I would also add in balance to that list of things to which we aspire from the offices of the Ombudsman. And I say balance because Yes, it is about maintaining good relations and constructive cooperations with the state bodies while maintaining independence. And it's also about building good relations with civil society while maintaining that independence. So getting that balance between the state and civil society is again one of the challenges, but one of the opportunities here to make further progress. Now that balance, I think, comes into relief when we're talking about issues like human rights defenders, or people like human rights defenders, who play a central role in advancing justice and protecting and speaking up in the public interest. Now, globally, we see the work of human rights defenders is under threat. Our 2023 reporting on SDG16 put the sobering statistic out that one human rights defender, whether a journalist, a trade unionist, was being killed on average every day globally. It's a very sobering statistic. Now, research that we've been doing in countries across the world, including research recently here in Thailand, shows that we have significant work to do as countries, as institutions, in protecting human rights defenders. Here in Thailand, for example, slaps are increasingly observed, including being used to silence human rights defenders with the risk of weakening freedom of expression. So from 1997 to 2022, we recorded 109 slap cases filed against human rights defenders. Now, the offices of the ombudspersons have a critical role to play in getting that balance between the state and civil society, including those defenders that speak up. And it doesn't need to be only a role where one waits for cases to come, and I know that's not the case here, but rather leaning into that proactive advisory role as laws and policies are developed in the process of ratification of international human rights instruments, in aligning national frameworks with international human rights regulations. Now, I am relatively new to your beautiful country, but I'm well briefed by my team, and I understand that the office here has made significant and commendable progress on all of these issues, and has already gone long beyond receiving complaints and works much more in the proactive space of administrative justice, environmental accountability, and so on. And this can indeed be further strengthened by some of those elements that the professor spoke about: visibility, close engagement with citizenship. And this is the kind of relationship and work that UNDP has the privilege of taking forward with about 60 different countries. So we work across about 60 countries with the Office of Ombudsman or international human rights institutions, for example, to expand access to justice and to improve institutional performance. So, for example, in Turkmenistan, in Moldova, in Tunisia, we're working on trying to foster innovation within those organizations to speed up issues around access to justice. With Maldives, it's around a simple online platform to try and speed up and simplify the complaint procedure process. We work through the Justice Action Coalition to try and bring partners together, again, that balance or that bridge between the state and civil society, and to work with the independent offices to enable that. And I think increasingly trying to create spaces for those conversations to happen, trying to create peer learning between countries, exactly as you're doing here today, is going to be one of the fundamental ways to get back on track. I say get back on track, and I'm never quite sure if I fully believe we were on track at any point on the SDGs, but to get back with the marathon and the end line in our sights, because I think that we have a responsibility to do so. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Neve Collier-Smith, for your information about the overall SDG situations. I'm glad to hear that Thailand is doing well, in your view, on upholding the rule of laws and commitment to the human rights situation at some point. Let's now move to the third speaker, of the panels, who is the Donnie? Bobby, sorry. But Bobby, just a moment. Let's hear from Bobby Hamza Dafinus, the Vice Chairman of the Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia. He's online from Jakarta, Indonesia. Is he online now?
Yes. It's clear enough?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me, Bobby?
Yes, I heard you clearly.
Yes, good afternoon. Now we are in session, the seminar Fostering Fairness in Society. Welcome to the seminar. Now you are the third speaker of the panel. Let me ask you, since you are working for the Ombudsman of Indonesia, let me ask you about the contribution of the Indonesia Ombudsman to SDG implementation, and what are challenges and lessons learned from that experience. The floor is yours.
Bobby,
before you start your presentation, let me say hello to you and good afternoon, and also express my deep gratitude for you for accepting to be the speaker today. So please continue your presentation, Bobby, please.
thank you, Ombudsman Saitwa. Very good afternoon, Sawat Satwadi, Excellencies Chairman of Thailand Ombudsman, and Excellencies Ombudsman colleagues from some countries, and also Excellencies speakers and moderators. Let me start my presentation with say my warmest congratulations to the Thailand Ombudsman on behalf of Indonesia Ombudsman on 25th anniversary. And also thank you very much to Ombudsman Somsak Sukan Sujarit for the opportunity for me to participate in this conference. Let me begin this presentation by try to elaborate the topic given to me on Ombudsman and the SDGs, international experiences in advancing fairness and justice. As mentioned by Ambassador Suchan, I will make this topic on the context of Indonesia Ombudsman. If we look at the topic, there are two concepts mentioned. One is Ombudsman and SDGs, and the second, fairness and justice. From the presentation of Professor Mutanbon, I heard that already explained to us about the fairness and justice, and I will explore further on the Ombudsman and SDGs, especially in Indonesia context. So, about the Ombudsman and SDGs, I refer to an article by Meike de Langen. She wrote about the 8 ways Ombudsman institution can contribute to the SDGs. One of ideas is using the SDGs as a non-legal substantive framework for resolving public complaints regarding public services. The Ombudsman broad scope of public service oversight can refer to the continuously developed indicators of the 17 SDGs, each with its own definition, mission method, and long-term goals. Meanwhile, as an independent body, Ombudsman institutions tend to develop procedural framework. Standard operating procedures are continuously improved in its activities such as handling public complaints, on-motion investigations, systemic reviews, and more. This procedural development is complemented by exploring legal substance as reflected in the Ombudsman quadrant. This approach resolves complaints based on legal compliance and instances of maladministration. Integrating the SDGs as a framework will increase the benefit of Ombudsman products around the world because they contain fairness and justice. So if you're looking in the slide in front, you can see a man who handed the word. I want to say that with the Ombudsman product, by using SDGs as a normative framework, will make the Ombudsman product become worldwide acceptance. And then the next slide, I thought I just want to mention that if we talk about the fairness, it emphasizes the equality and subjective perceptions in social dealings. When we talk about the justice, it's more closely associated with legal system and the enforcement of laws. So if the Ombudsman covered both of this concept, what I showed before, that it will make the product of Ombudsman will acceptance worldwide. And then on the next slide, the rapid growth of Ombudsman over the globe since 1916, mentioned by Ms. Calder-Smith of UNDP, also is because of the Ombudsman success in many countries on deliver the missions of protecting human rights, fundamental freedom, and promoting good governance and right of law. This success is acknowledged in the UN General Assembly resolution documents every 2 years since 2012. And using the SDGs as a non-legal substantive framework will enhance the Ombudsman decision-making considerations, making them fair and just. These two concepts are closely interrelated with the understanding the use of SDGs framework strengthen the Ombudsman role in fostering democracy, upholding the law and human rights, and ensuring better governance. Consider its mission and business process. Ombudsman has potential role as catalyst for achieving the SDGs by 2030. The Ombudsman motto, Voice the Voiceless, is closely aligned with the SDGs motto, Leave No One Behind, like two sides of the same coin. On the next slide, I want to mention some issues about the pros and cons of the SDGs success story. So there are some articles talking about the criticism of SDGs. At least one critical talk said about 10 criticism of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But the other side, there are also people who still thought that SDGs are still a good idea. If we look at the side of SDGs a good idea, it's clearly that SDGs movement, as mentioned by Ms. Calder-Smith, is depend on each country's progress. So she said about the marathon as a example how the SDGs work in a global area. Yeah. So the important point of the SDGs as a good idea is SDGs strategies and implementation exist at the country level in national action plans. So in Indonesia case, we have the planning on how to achieve SDGs until 2030. We call it the long-term plan of SDGs. And we also have an action plan to reach the SDGs, not only in national level, but also in regional level, even until the local government level. Yeah. And on the next slide, I want to explain about the progress of SDGs in Indonesia and countries member of Southeast Asian Ombudsman Forum. So if we look that from 2000 until 2023, there are some increasing of SDGs index, and we see that and this trend Indonesia reached 10.02%. But if you looking at the SDG score rank mentioned already by Ms. Collins Smith, that Thailand is ranked number 45, and Indonesia and rank number 78. Yeah. And another indicator that is important for us looking together in Southeast Asian Ombudsman Forum is on the spillover score. So if we look, the 4 countries has spillover score more than 80, even Indonesia and Philippines on the 95. Right? It means that we are 4 countries have a high scores, that these countries have more positive and fewer negative spillover effects on building environment toward the SDGs target. And about Indonesia, we still have some goals under the major challenges, yeah, like the goals on number 2, goals number 3, and goals number 11 and 14 and 15. And the other goals still on the significant challenges and challenges. So in Indonesia, we try to develop the indicators. Now we have 319 indicators. Yeah, so it's because we try to make additional or approximate indicators to the global indicators, and also we develop the national indicators. And on the next slide, as mentioned also by another speaker, that the COVID-19 pandemic has bad impact to the SDGs progress. So in Indonesia case, we have problem on the poverty target. Yeah, so even compared to the business as usual scenario and intervention scenario, what we face right now, that the number of poverty level is still higher than the 2 scenarios. So yes, the COVID-19 pandemic make SDGs effort have to be strengthened. Yeah, and then on the next slide, this is more on how on Indonesia Ombudsman try to manage internally to make more contribution on SDGs implementation in Indonesia. So we now in the ongoing process to make a new management strategy from before a statistic is from to go to more dynamic capabilities. Yeah. So using these strategies, we define what we deal with the SDGs indicators in 3 stages. First, on sensing, seizing, and transforming. So on the sensing, we try to classify the complaint come to Indonesia Ombudsman into the SDGs goals. For example, then SDGs number 16 dominate with a total report of close to 2,000, and then SDGs 15 about 1,800, and SDGs 8 is 1,300. So that's the 3 SDGs goal. Yeah, the highest complaint come to Indonesia Ombudsman. Yeah, and after we do the sensing, yeah. So if you look on the slide in front, that goal number 16, goal number like online is related to the SDGs 15, and also on the economic growth. Yeah, and after doing the sensing strategies, we go to the seizing, and on this area, we do some systemic review. Yeah. So, for example, we have 2 systemic review. One dealing with the integration of administrative data, and the second is criminal evidence management. So, from this systemic review, Ombudsman gave some suggestion to the government, like integration of the information system dealing with immigration, and then population, and also legal administration. And on the criminal evidence management, the Ombudsman gave input like integrated registration system for evidence across agencies. And the third stage is on the transforming. So this is what we contribute already for the SDGs. So if looking at the SDGs indicators, the result that we have done since 2020 until 2024 is put as SDGs indicator number 16.6.2. Is talking about the people's satisfaction on the quality of public services. Yeah. So if look at the numbers, show in the 3 zone, the green, the yellow, and the red, we can see that the number of institutions becoming higher on the green zone. It means that more and more institutions comply to the standard of public services. So that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. Kedengaran ya?
Nationalisms, America great again, whatever country great again, but the whole planet, the ocean. I am speaking after the ambassador, after our Indonesian friends, who I think the ocean, who owns the ocean? Should we allow the ocean to be owned by the navy of important countries? So see, my point here now, the first question about social fairness need to be shared in a sense beyond borders. We need to respect communities, but we also recognize that more inequalities are being felt in the world. When we focus on the positive achievement of SDG, yes, we have achieved quite a lot. But on the whole picture, I am sad to say that we cannot say we are on the balance. We are on the worst side and worsening side, because the bigger countries, including the one of the biggest economy, have already pulled out of the SDG consensus. So should we drop down all this SDG? So the question now is for all of us here to really feel that SDG16, SDG that's called justice and access to fairness for everyone. The whole SDG, I think the spirit is that no one should be left behind. That is, the vulnerable should be given space. To answer the moderator, you asked me about vulnerable communities because I was thinking about myself. Are we not feeling vulnerable in the world like this? In the world that leaders are not often feeling responsible for our common future. And that is a real issue. So now my point here relates to these 4 issues that I want to talk to you. Thailand, yes, we have to talk about, because we are here for Thailand Office of Ombudsman. But Ombudsman history in Thailand, 25 years, represent our own learning about our own challenges in the world of inequalities. And Thailand also need to see itself not as Thailand alone. So I would like now to bring the issue of, can we talk about the issue at hand in the context of global and regional more? Certainly we should warn ourselves that we should be grounded in our own context of responsibility in the country. And my point here relates not only to the global and regional. I want to propose that because of the poly crisis that Ajahn Vitit mentioned, the complex challenges that mentioned by our UNDP representative, is too clear that those challenges could not be answered by one country alone. Unless we develop regional and global conversation, we are just locked into these national boxes. And Thailand will suffer much more because we are, on one hand, we are living closely to the neighbors. And for example, the case of Myanmar, the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar, to say a small part, cannot be only seen as a separate issue. So my point here relates to, can we talk as a sociologist, as the kind moderator mentioned? I prefer that we look at our country as a part of the neighborhood of Asia, as a part of the planetary responsibility. Why we are here celebrating our Office of Ombudsman. So with that kind of perspective, my second point relates to the real spirit of SDG. Is it still important, or should we drop? I ask. No one should be left behind. That is inequality of access to justice, inequality to life, inequality to whatever. So the people who are most affected, including the young children, Ajahn Vitit mentioned youth. And I can also mention the issue of the local communities where there are cultural minorities. In that sense, I relate to the issue that at hand in Thai Parliament, we do have important move on the progress of how to strengthen the protection and conservation of cultural minorities and communities. Along that line, I just would like to re-emphasize rather than drop the central importance of SDG, that is even more important to bring the neglected, the invisible, the vulnerable issue into the forefront, but not only in a country, but rather also in the region and also in the world. In that sense, I see the role of Ombudsman in the light of this narrowing down the perspective is a problem. But the issue is also to open up the relationships among the local, the national, the regional, and the global concern, so that Thailand as a country, which also a member of the global community, and we celebrate our Ombudsman office in the light of our global learning, that we see Ombudsman, although it is a language, it's a foreign language, Ombudsman. It's not a Thai language. And we use the word ผู้ตรวจการแผ่นดิน But, and one of you in this room, allow me to mention, we do have some sense of insecurity when talking about ตรวจการแผ่นดิน or ตรวจเงินแห่งสำนักงานตรวจเงินแห่งสตง whatever. I mentioned this in the context of our Thai audience, that we live in the world where institutional trust and institutional effectiveness need to be transparent and need to be really evidence-based in the context of global and regional governance. So with that, allow me to mention the third point, that the issue of power imbalances in the world are very real, not only in a country, but in the world. I mentioned this in the light of some slides I have prepared. The issue of please allow me to mention this in the light of some experience with Ombudsman Tan Songsak. In the light of some issues that Thailand and the region are facing, how we deal with the regional commons called Mekong River. Yes, we are faced with several issues, including the concrete issue of Sanakam Dam project, for example. It's a dam, it's a water dam project built in Laos, but it is impacting across the border to Thailand. And in principle of sovereignty, Thailand cannot do anything. But I think in the context of Ombudsman and its principle, this office has proven to be able to bring the case into study, how transboundary issues should be studied and should be reconsidered in the context of our obligation to the global standards of promise to SDG. I don't have to elaborate more because it has been one example where Ombudsman is not only answering the grievances from the affected communities from the dam, because the border, from the border only 2 kilometers away from the Laotian border, they are already impacting. And those projects were not careful enough in their assessment, environmental assessment. See, it is so the power of Ombudsman is not dictatorial, is not is not say like absolute power to stop. But the power is how to bring the issue into consideration in the broader context of Thailand and also the regional discussion, how we should create a more environmentally responsible project. Secondly, it's also related to the issue of how Thailand, because Thailand is buying the electricity from Laos and from some neighboring countries. We are consumers of electricity, but we also, Thailand do have public companies, and including energy companies that are building dams around. So in that sense, the SDG issue is very central to how to manage the issue of imbalance of power among the business world, the human rights world, and also the world of governance. So what today some people would call ESG. But in fact, the real issue should not be left only about indicators. If you leave it to indicators, there are many issues, many people who make it like a cherry picking garden. You just showcase your beautiful cherries, the easy access. But the real issue is how Thailand as a country can also have a possibility of engaging the corporate world and also engaging its own responsibility of independent institutions in helping this. And in this case, Ombudsman office have been a bridge to start with. But a bridge is not a real solution, but it is a very promising dialogue and a promising conversation. And more importantly, I would like to say, a bridge to create mutual trust among Thailand and the neighbors in the context of the problem that we have now. I mention this in the light of global climate problem, the light of environmental disasters. But I also would like to bring this issue before I go further, that it brings the issue of Thailand and then neighbors more in the context of our SDG discussion in the broader than national evaluation of indexes. I bring to you now a recent report by UNODC. Please take note of the title. This is in the context of digitalization. Yes, we have not really been using digitalized technology very effectively, but there are some sectors are using very well. And this is one of the sectors that need more challenge for us to how to deal with the whole issue of digital world and digital generations. So my point here, I would like to mention to you that the technological innovation, like AI or digital world, are already with a new generation of our people in the region. But they are more utilized by certain sectors. And in this case, the scam issue, the converging sectors like fraud, banking, underground banking, human trafficking, etc. All these have become a part of the new real challenge of our context. I just bring to you a recent report on this kind of challenges that now seemingly beyond the reach, the jurisdiction of our work here. But I bring to you that the issue of the vulnerable people cannot be separated from our common responsibility for governance. And for that, Thailand as a member of ASEAN, we as a part of the neighboring country of several, we also do have possibility to engage more. Oh yeah. Okay. So I just would like to bring to you a near final part that I have intended to speak. In the world of complex challenges that we are faced today, not only outside, but we also faced with how to create more trustworthy institutions, more trustworthy political institutions, more trustworthy universities. I do not exempt Chulalongkorn University from this list. We are all faced with how to create trustworthy institutions in the light of our obligation to the present and future generations. So in that sense, the issue that I'm mentioning now may seem macro, but I also, it's not only the macro global issue, it is also very much close to our personnel and our colleagues in the country and the region. So I am speaking here in the light of many Ombudsman colleagues from the global network and regional network, that we do need to have a more meaningful dialogue into how governance, may I say, public governance, be a core issue of our future. Public governance beyond the usual national borders. That means corporate responsibility across the borders. That means how to bring the big high-tech AI companies into the discussion. And some of them are now opening for this kind of discussion. That's several because of how, for example, Facebook were challenged by the issue of very terrible incidents in Myanmar. And Facebook had to correct itself after legally and also publicly open challenge. And I'm happy to mention that I know one Thai lady who is very important in this line of work. So my point here is that sometimes personal role can be quite important in opening up the seemingly global issue. And here it relates to how we can see a transformative role of the Ombudsman to trigger more system improvement in the governance, more system improvement in some sectors of Thailand that already promised to do better. Justice, education, health, but in some area we still face with policy conflicts. Because, for example, some area like how to consider the issue of humanitarian aspect of children, education of children who do not have Thai nationals. It's a very complex and difficult problem. But Thai cabinet already promised that no children on this land should be left uneducated. So Thailand promised to do better. Certainly, it's also challenging because of budget issue. So I am opening up this kind of policy conflict where national security sometimes came in a wrong timing, wrong interpretation. Because if they are alien, foreigners, do not have documents, okay, they can be easily arrested. So in that context, that kind of context, the conflict between security principle national security principle and the context of Thai promise to the governance of rights of children to the global level can be mediated by the role of people who feel this issue should not be a dilemma. There should be a better way to do it. And the Ombudsman, I see so far, could have already done some meaningful steps into that such. And I mention this in the light of their more difficult problem like health expenses when it relates to foreign migrant workers. And Thailand is not the richest country around here, but we do have responsibility how to deal with this issue because employers need laborers. And labor sometimes, as everyone know in this region, that in the context of relationship with Myanmar and the neighboring countries, we do have more complex challenges to deal with it. So with this, I just open up a somewhat smaller level, not global, but local, but Thai level, but it also linked with the global responsibility of UN agencies and also our friends in the Ombudsman network who have experiences in Europe or maybe in Africa. How can we all bring all these global experiences to deal with the complex challenge of public governance for the issue of no one should be left behind, for the youth, for people who are often not easily to be located as a citizen of one country. I don't have to mention the complex issue that we already seen on the television, like when the scam centers were pushed hard by some big countries, that Thailand had to deal with it. But the issue should not be left like that. It should be a window of real learning. So my last point now relates to the future. Where is the future? For me, I think the future is not over there. The future is already here. We know that first, Thailand demographic structure do not allow us to see that we will have our own populations structures needed for the next employment necessity in the context of the global competition. So in that sense, my point here would relate to the issue of the future already here, because there are so many migrant children in Thailand who are now living here, educated here, and many of them are speaking Thai language better than their own national language. So my point here, just open up a more future engaging agenda for us to talk about what could SDG mean and how can we see SDG something beyond that, we move ahead into the future in the context of no one should be left behind. And here, see this no one should be left behind in the light of the future labor promise for Thailand to live meaningfully with the neighbors. My second point relates to governance beyond governments. I already said something earlier. Governance beyond governments. In the light of SDG global discussion every year, I think the issue of global governance have already been translated as a public governance, global public governance. But when we discuss about index of comparison, we tend to be only country-specific comparison. So my second point really is here, how we bring the issue of SDG in a more enabling discussion for all of us to move ahead. And for that purpose, the future which is partly here, but it cannot be total because the part that is with us now need to be identified and discussed and taken as an entry point into the future engagements. My third point relates to policy engagement, which I hope the Office of Ombudsman, in the context of Thai institutional trust challenges, the Office of Ombudsman could be more public, could engage more with public engagement. I don't have to mention that in the Thai language context, many people cannot differentiate between Sotong and Pososor, although the words are seemingly different. But the full name need to be easily recognized. But the issue is not only differentiation between the two names, but how the effectiveness and how the not only visibility, but how the real meaningful work of our Ombudsman Office through our global network can help Thailand to open up a broader understanding of this need for public governance beyond governments. We have to respect governments, we have to respect the parliament, but I think every country do have responsibility together how to bring the whole world to a solidarity of responsibility for the next generation. We cannot leave the word moral to religious people. In Thailand, there is a very powerful network discussion on SDG18. SDG18 participated by 2,000 people plus in Samyan Midtown just 1 month ago. SDG18 beyond 17 is about inner peace, inner development. And that is so much related in some way also, certainly, to sufficiency economy, which sometimes have been spoken about but not really practiced in our own context. So my point here comes to the end of what I want to say, that unless we are frank about the issue that we are faced together, I think the next generation of people will not have, will lose more hope. I mean, the hope that was discussed by Ajahn Vitit and by several others. In the world like this, need more advocacy on transformation, which includes self-transformation. Here, please allow me to end by saying that at the 25 year of Office of Ombudsman of Thailand, the celebration is to highlight the history that we have had, but to deepen our lessons of learning in the context of our responsibility to the land, to the promise that our respected king have worked so hard, but still we don't have to use so many ceremonies about it. But we have to be frank that we need to make friends more, to engage with new generations of people, and to go beyond the issue of criminalization of people who are thinking different from the mainstream, so that we can be innovative, we can be embracing, and inclusive future is the only answer for our possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Surichai's very different angle, perspective about the SDG and the roles of the ombudsman. He mentioned a lot about the governance. He mentioned that we are in the most difficult time to carry out the SDG because of a certain country that's that set the tone of the situation. And he said that this is not the challenge, SDG is not the challenge of a certain country, but the whole planet for the humanity. He mentioned also should I say, governance beyond governments, meaning that the role of ombudsman can be expanded, can be a bridge to talk with the neighboring country to solve the common issues along the border. He mentioned that even though the ombudsman has no power to sanction, but of course they have the power to expose the situation or bring to the attention of the government and try to fix the common issue along the border. Thank you very much, Professor Surichai. Now, we've come to our last speaker, certainly not least, Kun Songsak Saichua, the Ombudsman of Thailand. The theme of the celebration is 25 years of its establishment of the Ombudsman. So 25 years has passed since we have the first Ombudsman of Thailand. So you may see success and failures of the office here along the way. So this will give you a significant input to make a better and more efficient Ombudsman Thailand. Could you share with us how the Ombudsman Thailand helped Thailand achieve SDG and what is your approach to encourage state agencies to go along with your endeavor? The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Songpon. Good afternoon, all the participants and audience. It's a big challenge for me to be given 20 minutes to speak as a last speaker in the very late afternoon of Friday. So some people already feel sleepy, but I will try my best. And also the four previous speakers kindly cover very key and important points, almost all the key points. But I will try to give you a sort of the snapshot and highlights of some key points from the perspective of the Ombudsman of Thailand. I will speak in two parts. The first part, I will recap and also give you a snapshot of the mandates and authorities of the Thai Ombudsman. Yesterday and this morning, seminar in the Thai version, some speaker already mentioned about the mandates and authorities of the Thai Ombudsman. Professor Wittit also partly mentioned about that, but I will again give you a snapshot and highlight in leading to my second part, that would be the roles of Ombudsman in achieving SDG, including SDG16. So the first part, the mandates of the Ombudsman, as some of the speakers yesterday and this morning mentioned, the originality of Ombudsman from Sweden in 1809, 216 years ago. So Ombudsman is one of the oldest organizations in the world. What I just would like to add on and highlight is that Ombudsman is the Swedish term and also now using as the English language as well. If we translate Ombudsman, is the representative or agent of the people, meaning that the Ombudsman have the very close connection with the people, represent the people in addressing the grievances, and the two fundamental function of mandate since the beginning, since 1809, are the first one addressing grievances, and the second one, the Ombudsman have to tackle the maladministration in order to transform or to improve that maladministration of the government agencies and the government officers to be the good and effective administrations. So this is these are the two fundamental mandate or functions since the beginning. In the case of Thailand, the Constitution 1995 was the first constitution that has the provision to set up ombudsman, which it called the parliamentary ombudsman in Constitution 1995. But unfortunately, the government of Thailand had not yet established or set up the ombudsman until Constitution 1997, which is the first constitution that also has the provision to set up the ombudsman and the ombudsman office. And as you see in the screen, that the first parliamentary ombudsman was appointed on the 1st of April, and also the office of ombudsman established on the 12th of April, the year 2000. That's why we commemorate 25 years or the 25th anniversary of the Ombudsman of Thailand this year. And now we are entering the 26th year. And the Constitution 2007 also appointed or set up the Ombudsman as the independent organ. I use the term organ according to our Constitution. It's independent organization or independent bodies. But the legal term in our Constitution, they use independent organ, and also the current Constitution 2017 also set up the Ombudsman as the independent organ. One of the 5 independent organizations, the National Anti-Corruption, the National Human Rights Commission, the Election Commission, and also the Supreme Audit or the State Audit Commission. So there are 5 independent organs or bodies according to the current Constitution. And the key mandate of Ombudsman according to the current Constitution 2017, the first one to recommend to the state to improve or amend the act, the law at every level, including the operative procedure as well. And the second mandate would be to solve the grievances of the people. In solving the grievances of the people, according to the current Constitution, there are 2 ways that the Ombudsman of Thailand can handle and tackle the complaint coming from the people. The first one, we receive the complaints from the people. There are at the moment 4,000 to 5,000 altogether at hand. And the other one, this is the first time in the current Constitution that the Ombudsman can pick up or initiate its own cases, which we call the own motion or own initiative investigation. And there are also 2-way initiative, our own cases, our own investigation. The first one, we pick up or initiate the immediate issues, cases, in order to solve the immediate issues for the people. For the example, the people encounter the flooding or the big fire and they cannot get the remedies or compensation fast enough, then we pick up the issues and try to work with the government agencies to speed up the process in having the remedy and the compensation for the people. And the other kind of own motion or own initiative investigation is to initiate the case that cover the whole spectrum of the issues, the structural, what we call the systematic investigation, which will solve the problem at the root cause of the problem and cover the whole spectrum of the problem, not only case by case complaints. And the third So the third mandate of the Thai Ombudsman is the oversight power according to Chapter 5 of the Constitution, which is also the first time that the Constitution of Thailand stipulated or contained the provision on the state duties. In the Chapter 5, there are 12 articles or 12 areas of state duties that we have to oversight. So this is the new power according to the current constitution, which is quite unique for Thailand, because as I'm aware, the ombudsman of other countries don't have this kind of oversight power, the same as the ombudsman of Thailand. And the fourth mandates of the ombudsman of Thailand, the mandate number 1, 2, 3 are the mandate of addressing the other side of the coin, try to solve the problem of the people, the unfairness, the grievances, the excessive burden that they encounter with the government agencies or the government officials. But the other side of the coin is the government agencies. So that's why our organic law of Ombudsman of Thailand 2017 mandated us to provide support, to render any support, to promote and to give advice to the government agencies to perform more effectively and more efficiently in order to get rid of the inequality. So this is very striking for me that in the law mentioned that we need to support the government agencies to perform their duty more effectively and more efficiently in reducing or in eliminating the inequality, which is the very general and broad term, including to eliminate any practices that lead to the unfair treatment, to the excessive burden, and so on and so forth. So this is a kind of the four basic mandates and authority for the oversight power on the Chapter 5. This is just to briefly show you that this is the 12 areas of duties in 12 articles stipulated under Chapter 5 of the Constitution. So this is considered as the public policy. So the Thai Ombudsman has the mandate and authorities also to oversight the public policy, not the government policy, but the public policy according to Chapter 5 of the current Constitution. And then from now, we are, as I said, we are entering the 26th year of Office of Ombudsman and Ombudsman of Thailand. During the past 25 years, I consider that we are still at the classical ombudsman approach. We are now moving in the transition and in the transitional period, moving from the so-called classical ombudsman to the modern ombudsman, or to the modern function or the modern focus of ombudsman. The classical ombudsman mandates are mainly, as I mentioned, first, addressing grievances. The second one, handling the maladministration in order to transform it or to upgrade it, to improve it to be the good and effective administration. So this is the classical approach of the classical ombudsman. Some of the ombudsmen in Europe, in the US, in the Asia Pacific, for example, Australia, New Zealand, they're already moving to the so-called modern function or to modern ombudsman. The Netherlands is the one who spearheading by implementing SDG in order to be moving into the so-called modern ombudsman. So you can see that in moving into or to be the modern ombudsman, the first one, we have to look at how ombudsman can make contribution to social and governance, social justice and governance, as Professor Surishay mentioned. And the second one on the SDG. The third one on the conflict resolution. And the third one on the structural development, which we already starting by implementing some of the systemic investigation and the oversight project on the Chapter 5 of the Constitution. So we are, as I said, we are in a transition, moving from classical to modern. And SDG is one of the key elements of the key area, of the key aspect in moving into the modern function or to the modern ombudsman. So the second part on SDG, Thailand's approach, overall approach. The first one, Thailand rely on the locally driven development approach through His Majesty King Bhumibol King Rama IX, the SEP, Sufficiency Economy philosophy, as Professor Surishay also mentioned. And second one, our approach in achieving SDG also very much focusing on the bioeconomy, circular economy, and the clean economy, which we call BCG model. And also the approach of Thailand in achieving SDG are the people-centered and planet-centered approach. So put together the people and the planet at the central theme of achieving SDG. And then in our cooperation and collaboration with other countries, we develop what we call the SEP for SDGs partnership with more than, I think, 20 countries around the world. And then through the so-called South-South cooperation and also the cooperation with the Global South countries, Thailand also attached the high priorities or the top priorities in the cooperation in the area of SDG, including SEP for SDG partnership. And then we use the bilateral and trilateral cooperation also in providing cooperation and providing capacity building to many countries around the world, especially in Southeast Asia, in South Asia, in Africa, and also in Latin America. Even some countries in the Eastern Europe also are the strong partner of Thailand and learning from us in using the SEP for SDG partnership. The main area that we support the other countries or render assistance to them in achieving SDG, for example, education, healthcare, agriculture, social development, quality of life development, and also environment. Then we have a strong collaboration with the UN, UNDP, and also other bodies and organizations of the UN under the umbrella we call the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UNSDF, and it covers three main aspects. The first one, transforming Thailand to be the inclusive economy. The inclusive economy also include or cover clean development, low carbon society, and also the sustainable development or sustainability. And the second aspect of UNSDF is the human capital development. The key point is how to empower the people in achieving, in making contribution and making the strong, effective participation in achieving SDG. And the third one is no one left behind, as Ajahn Surichai mentioned many times, including definitely the vulnerable groups as well. And for the role of Thai Ombudsman in SDG, we are trying to elevate our implementation, our action in trying to connect the work of Ombudsman of Thailand with SDG, and also how Ombudsman of Thailand can make more contribution to achieving SDG, both for Thailand and both for the international cooperation at the multilateral, at the regional, and also at the bilateral level. So for us, the case that we receive from the people, the complaint cases that we receive from the people, we try to categorize all those cases, which cases are relevant to which goal, I will show you later on. And then the systemic investigation, we have initiated. At the moment, there are more than 10 systemic investigation cases. We also try to look at how those cases can respond to and also can make contribution to achieving SDG, including the oversight power investigation under Chapter 5 duty of states as well. And this is some example, as I said, for the complaint that we receive from the people, 4,000 to 5,000 complaints. We try to categorize which complaints are relevant to which SDG goal. For example, goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. We receive a lot of complaints from the people on the quality of water utility, water supply, and so on and so forth. So this is one area that I think up to now we quite make contribution in achieving goal number 6. And goal number 15, life on land. Also, there are several complaints from the people to us in order to handle the disputed cases between the people and also the government agencies in occupying the land, including the illegally claim of the land by some group of the people or even by the government agencies. That contribution a lot to make the better life on land for the people, and also to try to solve the land disputed between the government agencies and also the people. So there are also a lot of cases relevant to goal number 14, life below water. Number 16, there are a lot of cases. There are number 1 cases that are coming to us that are relevant to goal number 16. For example, access to justice system. The people go to the police station, want to file the legal actions against the other people, but sometimes the police station reluctant or deny to register the case and to conduct the cases and so on and so forth. And also the delay action by the police or the government officials in conducting the due process and so on. So there are a lot. There are a lot of cases relevant to goal number 16. And for the systemic investigation and the oversight cases that we initiated under Chapter 5, also goal number 2, zero hunger. We plan next year to initiate the investigation, the systemic investigation on the child nutrition improvement project at Narathivat province, and we will also expand to the other 2 southern province in the near future. And goal number 3, good health and well-being. There are a lot of systemic investigation and the Chapter 5 oversight investigation, as you can see on the screens, safety measures for school transport, the primary health care, preparing for an aging society, down to the integrated and people-centered road safety approach. So there are a number of systemic investigation that relevant to goal number 3. Goal number 4, quality education initiated by the Chief Ombudsman on the vocational upskilling project for the student who cannot pursue their education, and also the gender equality. As Professor Vitit already mentioned the case. Also, some of the systemic investigation that relevant to goal number 6, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12, number 14. So I will not go into detail, including number 16 also. What I want to highlight a few investigation, systemic investigation under that relevant to goal 16 are the investigation concerning prisons and prisoner, which we very much focus on, which we rely on the Mandela rules, Bangkok rules, and also, as you mentioned, the torture principle and also human rights principle. So we attach high importance for the welfare and also for the prisoner to receive the transparent conduct, the rules of law conduct of the officials concerned. Then in summarizing the role of the Ombudsman, number 1, through the 4 mandates or the 4 authorities of the Ombudsman, we recommend to improve or change the law. We saw the grievances, address the grievances of the people. We also oversight the state duties according to Chapter 5 of the Constitution. And the second one, there are some project on the good governance, as also the Chief Ombudsman mentioned, the good governance to promote at the sub-district at some provinces, and myself also conducting the project to invite the local authorities, the municipalities, the sub-district council to have the seminar on how to improve their good governance, their practices, and also their services, better services to the people. Next week, we will go to Prachinburi province to organize, to convene a seminar for about 200 officers from the local authorities and also the head of village, head of sub-district in the Prachinburi province. And the third one, I think we also have been undertaking a number of what we call outreach activities, which try to empower the people and also to encourage the participation of the people, and in achieving the sustainable development, in achieving the better quality of life, in achieving SDG several goals. For example, what we call the program, the Place of Justice. We organize the forum that provide opportunity for the people to voice their concern, to voice their need, to raise any issues to us. And then from there, we collect and gather information, and we translate it into the systemic investigation or into the oversight investigation under Chapter 5 of the Constitution. We also undertaking the youth and the school program in several provinces, and also the People Empowerment Program. And also we are going to organize what we call the Together program with the Thai communities in foreign countries. In July, we will start with the Thai communities in the Netherlands through Zoom with no expenses, no budget, in order to empower the Thai community according to the policy of the government. Any government want to empower to have the strong Thai community overseas. So through Together program, we will empower the Thai community overseas. And then we also have the program assigning volunteer labor graduates. The graduate from any university in the three southern province of Thailand, they work as volunteers for Ministry of Labor. That's why we call volunteer labor graduates. But we also entrusted them to work for the Office of Ombudsman. They very efficiently and effectively reaching out to the people. Within 3-4 months, they're reaching to more than 2,000 people, a lot of hundreds of communities and so on and so forth, in order to provide the information on how the people can use the Ombudsman of Thailand as a channel to address their grievances, to address their concern, to address their problems encountering with the government agencies and government officials and so on. And then at the moment, the Office of the Ombudsman, we are going to have the next meeting with the National Economic and Social Development Board and Ministry of Foreign Affairs in order to explore ways and means how we can work more, how we contribute to the National Committee on SDG, and how we can be the official integral part of the SDG setting of the government of Thailand. Because as I mentioned, we have done a lot of work that's relevant to many goals already. So I will stop here, and maybe if the second round still have time, I will touch upon very briefly on Ombudsman role in international cooperation, focusing on SDG. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ombudsman Songsak. I got a note from the organizer since we're running out of time. So maybe if any of you want to add small few words for the second round, because Professor Sudachai has left, we can have the floor now. And after this, we will have the Q&A sessions, Friday afternoon, please.
It's dangerous to take the mic again at this hour of the afternoon. I think I had a space for reflection with all of the eminent panelists speaking as well as to how I could have used 5 minutes now, but I'm going to condense that into maybe 3 sentences. First, and coming back to the professor's comments on whether the SDGs are still valid, whether this is still a framework we can trust in, believe in, drive towards. I think the global frameworks like this may change and evolve. They have before, and I am confident they will continue to do so in the future. As the UN, we keep hold of that part in the center of the ring that I'm wearing here, the SDG ring, and that's the UN Charter. And the UN Charter starts with the words, "We the peoples." We the peoples of the world. So you are all the peoples of the United Nations. And so when I hear the Honorable Ombudsman saying the translation of Ombudsman is the agent of the people, then it couldn't find a more truer conversation to be having than with your kind offices on the importance of implementing the SDGs here as the agent of the people in Thailand. I think there's 2 things that can be done to further deepen the actions that you're seeking to take and the results that you're seeking to achieve. And the first is to continue to make the goals really meaningful to people. And again, I commend the work that Thailand's done on this SDG localization program. We're honored to have had the opportunity to work together, including with support from the European Union over the past few years, on trying to take these goals, which can be quite elusive and quite macro, and bring it right down to the community level, to engage in social listening, to engage in understanding the data better, so that can enable better planning, better budgeting, and can minimize, hopefully, the complaints also coming through to your offices. So I think that question of really localizing the SDGs is the first step that can continue to be done deeper. And then the second, and this will be my last comment, is we need to learn to move at the speed of change when it comes to the SDGs and not the speed of traffic. And I've got the government buildings and roads outside on a Friday afternoon in my mind. When I think about that, you're sitting in your car, you know where you're going, you've got the ability to get there, and yet you're stuck and you're frustrated, right? We could think about the SDGs as a big long line of traffics, indicators piled upon indicators, and we're all stuck and we're not getting where we want to go. We have to shift that mentality. If we can shift to thinking in terms of the systems that we're trying to change, and not just the goals or the indicators we're trying to achieve. So whether it's the biocircular economy system, as Thailand is, but the system at the heart of the change that we're trying to shift, then we have the potential to really achieve what we've set out to do in these 17 goals. And I'll close. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Collier Smith. Can we have Bobby? Bobby is still here? No. He's left. Okay. Kun Song Sak, please. You have the floor. Oh, he's back. Bobby, hello. Bobby, how are you? So we come to the second round of the seminar. If you have some additional information to add, you have 5 minutes, please, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to add the importance of the Ombudsman institution itself, to make a bigger contribution to SDGs. In my presentation, I suggest to make a kind of transformation in Ombudsman organization in its country from the static capability to dynamic capability, because deal with the SDGs, Ombudsman means deal with more substance and have a close relationship with the other institutions, not only in government, but also in communities and also international agencies. So it is important for Ombudsman itself to make the human resources transformation means more competence, and also build the digitalizations, and have more innovation in doing the systemic review or doing the assessment of the public service standards. With that kind of dynamic capability strategy, the Ombudsman will give more contribution in delivering its function as external oversight of public service for the people. So that's my additional comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pak. Terima kasih. Thank you very much. Kun Song Sak, please.
Only 2 minutes. I look at the eye of you. Or us want to go home in the late afternoon Fridays. So two point number one, I think at the moment, as Ambassador Songpon mentioned, that only 17% of SDG targets have been achieved so far. We only have 5 years left until up to 2030s. So, and now we are facing more and more risks and challenges from the global environment, the geopolitical uncertainty, and also the new U.S. administration uncertainty, whether their commitment for the multilateral system will continue or not, because there are signs that it seems that the U.S. will withdraw or retreat from quite several international organizations. So that's also big challenges for us, and also the climate change, the global warming become more and more serious, and the financing for development and resources for SDG are the big question mark, how we can find or obtain sufficient resources to support the SDG implementation around the world. Second point for Ombudsman of Thailand, we also try to promote and support the work on SDG in the IOI, International Ombudsman Institute, which is the international forum for the Ombudsman. 230 Ombudsman organizations from more than 100 countries around the world. Through the UN Working Group of IOI, we suggested that SDG to be the standing agenda of IOI, and also we suggested that IOI should have the engagement with the UN bodies, UNDP, the Economic and Social Development Committee, ECOSOC, UNODC, and so on, so forth. And also IOI will explore the possibility to take part in the UN events more and more in the near future. And also at the regional forum, we set up what we call the Southeast Asian Ombudsman Forum, COF, which now we have 4 full member countries, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Timor-Leste. But we also invited observer and also the other countries, for example, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, and also some of the international organizations, UNODC in Jakarta, and so on, to take part. One of the strong, which Thailand and Indonesia, together with Ombudsman Bobby, we strongly try to promote the SDG and to put SDG as the standing agenda in COF forum as well. So that's the 2 points that I would like to add on.
Thank you very much, Khun Songsak. Now we have the floor for everyone to raise the question here in the room or online, verbal or in writing. Please, if you have the question. Okay, so we come to a close. I would like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to our speaker, Mr. Neve Collier-Smith, and Khun Songsak, also Ombudsman Thailand, Professor Sulichai, who has left, and also Professor Vitit Mantaporn for the video clips, and also the Bobby, who kindly joined us online from Jakarta, Indonesia. Thank you very much. And everyone, thank you very much for taking part of this, this seminar. And I understand that this is quite not easy for you to be in the afternoon of the Friday for the very heavy topic seminar. And perhaps I thank you so much for being here with us, and hope we have this kind of event again in the future. Thank you very much.
And thank you to our esteemed panelists. Congratulations to Mr. Bobby Hamzan Rafinas, the Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia, as today as a panelist for today's seminar. And thank you once again for your valuable knowledge and joining us. And also, we grateful to our participants from every online platform, both Facebook page and YouTube. Thank you once again for your participation and goodbye. And next, last but not least, and at this time, before we close our sections today, at this time, may I invite Mr. Somsak Subarnasucharis once again, the Chief Ombudsman of Thailand, to come forward to present token of appreciations to our distinguished panelists and moderator. Mr. Somsak, please. And may I first invite Ms. Neve Collier-Smith, the UNDP resident representative in Thailand. And next, I would like to invite Mr. Songpon Sukjan, the former ambassador of Thailand to the Republic of Indonesia. I would like to invite the Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General of the Office of the Ombudsman of Thailand for a group photo shot, please. The seminar titled The Fostering Fairness in Society, the Ombudsman's Role in Achieving SDG16 has now concluded. And today's seminar is an auspicious opportunity to demonstrate how ombudsmen and vigilance organizations that share similar missions and goals in serving their citizens. And on behalf of the Office of the Ombudsman of Thailand, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all distinguished guests for your kind participations, and we wish everyone a safe and pleasant journey. Thank you very much once again, and hope to see you again next time. ขอบคุณมากๆนะคะสำหรับวันนี้และขอให้ทุกท่านเดินทางกลับโดยสวัสดิภาพค่ะ